How are you doing?
Good, I'm great. Very excited and happy.
Awesome. So we're going to jump right in. What we're going to do while we do this Facebook Live, iLe just came out with a new video song. The song's called Odio. We're going to have our admins post the link to the video. If you have questions in the comment section, and if you have any questions, we'll try to check them later. But I want to talk to her for a little bit because I'm like super excited. I'm so proud of the work that you do. And especially like representing Puerto Rico. And the thing, you know, I'm big on Puerto Rico first, and you do a really good job.
Thank you.
Talk to me about this video, this song, because I saw it. I'm a Puerto Rican history nerd, and I remember, July 25th to me is a very interesting date. We got invaded. The Commonwealth Constitution came out, and then what happened in the 70s with Cerro Maravilla. So tell me a little bit more about the video and the song and why you did it.
Well, I see it as two different things. The song, I was thinking about the moment we are living today, and the video is basically like an example of one story that can relate to many stories around the world, not only in Puerto Rico, but also in different countries. And for us as a team, the creative team, it was important to recreate a story where Puerto Ricans can feel identified with, because our colonialism story, history, everything has been like almost forgotten. And my generation, also generations younger than mine, they don't even know about this. They don't even know that this happened in 1978. So it's important that people at least remember our history and do something about it, and maybe relate to the moments we are living today with the government of Puerto Rico, and as well as the rest of the world, and empathize with it and do something about it, and go to the streets and fight and react.
So you're right. In 1978, I was 8 years old in Puerto Rico. I remember it vividly. July 25th, and it's especially because todo el mundo, nadie trabaja, no one works. It's a day off. And I remember seeing the story of these nationalists who were killed in Cerro Maravilla, and how it was clearly there were questions about it being a cover up, and I remember El Caballo, which is Barceló, not Barceló, Romero, Romero Barceló, who's like still alive.
Still alive and not in jail.
Not in jail, right? Free. And it was like a moment of, like, I don't think Puerto Ricans don't understand it. They don't understand the history of it. So, did you try to capture that? Like, your director, talk about like how you captured it, because I was like, I saw it. It was gripping. I was like La Mancha del Plátano started coming out, you know what I mean? My plantain, like, stain, like, it just comes out. I was ready to tattoo myself with, like, the Puerto Rican flag, because I was like, yeah, history! So tell me more about, like, why did it mean so much to capture it that way? Because I knew what happened, but to see it now in 2018, I was like, whoa.
Yeah, well, the video was directed by Cesar Berrios.
We do have a live audience here, which is great, and Cesar's here, so thank you. It's really fantastic work.
Yeah, and we worked it together with my team, that is my brother Gabriel and my sister Milena. So it's fun at the beginning because we know each other very well, but we thought about different ideas, because audio, hate is something that you can talk about it in so many different ways. But then we unconsciously, the idea of the cerro was coming without even noticing. Like the Cerro Maravilla, and then we said, why don't we just talk about the Cerro Maravilla in the whole video? And then we say, yeah, it's important, it's necessary, because I'm conscious. I know it because of my family, but it's not something that they taught me at school.
Right.
And I know it's something that our own history is not. We don't learn about it in school. We learn it because of our family or someone who talked to us about it. But for me, it's important, especially nowadays, to recognize that it's not about political partidos.
Sí, parties, yeah, partidos.
It's not about political
or partisanship
parties.
Yeah.
Because we still don't recognize these moments. In Puerto Rico, they don't put las banderas a media asta.
Oh yeah, half. It's the flags at half staff.
Like as a commemoration.
Yeah.
Like it
well, we also don't celebrate the invasion. You don't put the flag. It's the same day.
Yeah, I know, but
I know what you mean.
Yeah, I think because of that. I mean, a lot of people died, especially in the 70s.
Yes.
Like Carlo Muñiz Varela.
But here's the thing. There's so many. Like we all know that this is the problem when you talk about Puerto Rico, and especially because we all know each other. We are an island. But every one of us knows someone, especially in the 60s and the 70s. If you started asking families around, like, ¿tú conoces a alguien nacionalista que se perdió la... You know people that were either, like, terrorized by the FBI, killed, like, jailed. Like, they're still friends of mine, their parents, like, that it's happened. So, it's not as uncommon as Puerto Ricans to think about it, but the problem, I think, is because when you bring it up, then it's like, and I'm saying this because I get it all the time. Comunista, socialista, quiere que sea Cuba, Venezuela, ¿por qué? So tell me, like, how do you fight that trend? Because you and I we were both born in Atorrey. What hospital? ¿Qué hospital?
No, yo vivo en Atorrey. Pero yo nací en Santurce. En un hospital en el Ashford.
En el Ashford, ok.
Sí,
yo nací en Axilomoto, en Atorrey, mi hermano Fernando en Pavia. So like we're like Santurce, Atorrey. I'm from Guaynabo. Like, where'd you grow up in
yo me crié en Trujillo Alto. I grew up in el Ashford. Me crié en Trujillo Alto, but my school and everything was all in San Juan.
Right. So that's my whole point is like we're San Juan kids, like we are, right? And you know the culture, right? And so I find it really interesting when we try to talk about this that it seems to get repressed. Like we can't talk about our own history. And even our own people don't want us to talk about our own history. So how do you find? It's like, to me, it's like a tension, una tensión, la creativa. So como tú how do you do it by being you did win a Grammy. Come on, like you are successful. So how do you balance? Do you balance the political with the creative and try to use your voice to be like, I want to educate people about Puerto Rico through my art, and I'm still gonna be commercially successful? Do you think that way, or when?
No.
I'm just curious.
I think what I'm feeling, what I would like. I don't know. It's for me. It's important. It's delicate at the same time because I don't want to feel that people think that I'm taking advantage of a historic moment to make promotion of my. Like, it's not because of that at all.
Right. That's
Never
what I mean. Yeah.
in my life.
Yeah.
I don't think that way.
But but here's the thing. Like you guys you're part of one of the greatest. I mean, probably the greatest act in the history of Puerto Rican music in the last 10, 15. Like, come on, guys, you changed the world. You put on your music. Obviously, I grew up with it. Other people, like my cousins and everything, and I want to have this conversation with you because. You guys, you always celebrate Puerto Rico. You really put us in you put Puerto Rico in a global sense, but at the same time, there's not a lot. There's a lot of people on the island who are like, iLe, calle 13 René. They're just like, how do you balance it? Because I've always wanted to ask you guys that, because I think sometimes your voice. It seems like there's like a systematic sort of like trying to silence your voice on the island, and I feel like. The globalness of you and what your siblings did, like it seems to have tapped outside of Puerto Rico. You know what I mean?
Well, because we're still a colony, and that's like a colonial syndrome. I feel like we suddenly, for many years, we have learned what we have learned about ourselves is we are insufficient, we are not capable, we need someone else. We are in a crisis. What can we do? Who's going to come to save us? Oh, the United States, so amazing. The God. We begin to idolize the United States, and it's like when you're being abused, it's like a typical psychological reaction, human reaction. Like when you're being abused by someone, or you suddenly start to believe that you deserve it. and then suddenly it becomes your fault. I'm the problem. It's not that they are humiliating me and I don't deserve it. It's that suddenly I'm become the problem, and it's very psychological. It's very crazy, but people need to have another way of thinking, and that's why it's so important to start in the families, but also in the school. And I remember being at school, and when we started talking about historical facts in Puerto Rico, I felt that the teachers didn't want to talk about it. And why? Like, if the students are beginning this conversation, you should promote it and make a discussion about it, obviously with respectfully, but it's important to talk about it, not prohibit our way of speaking. And there's other mentalities. I know that people think that we are a free country because we have U.S. passport and we can travel around the world. That's, for me, that's not being a free country. They don't know the reality we are living in Puerto Rico. That is critical. We are living I don't know. We are in 2018 and we're still having como an infantil, no sé.
Like what? Like I don't know.
A naive mentality. I think that's how we think. We are very naive in our way of thinking.
Yeah.
Which is very nice in some ways, and I think it's tierno in a way, but in other ways people can get advantage of that naivety.
Yeah, naivete. But so let's talk about. But before I talk a little bit, but because I do want to see how you connect your art, like your Puerto Ricanness, with your art as a singer, because your body of work, at least your solo work, right? Like, I think goes beyond that. I mean, I don't sit here and go like, iLe, you're like you're like a machetera, like an artist. You have you don't come from that. At least your music, at least right now, is not like what I would consider like that tradition of nacionalista music that's always been there. Like, so how do you balance it? Or
I think I'm not too conscious about what is going what I'm doing and how it can. I don't know. I'm not. I just do what I'm feeling. What I think is right for me at the moment, and that's why where the idea came up. We weren't thinking too much about maybe these other people. Like we thought like, man, maybe if I need it, if I think I need it, or I'm feeling that I need this right now, maybe Puerto Ricans need it as well. And maybe other countries need to know about what's going on in Puerto Rico, because I've traveled a lot and I feel like a lot of people don't know so much about our history, don't even know that we were invaded by the United States. And that's so basic.
And we downplay it too. Like when you talk to people about the invasion, it's like, I don't know, if I don't, they just came to the south, and it's like,
because we want it, and that people think that we
people don't realize the sort of stigma of that. Like, were you right that it just is something that we just accept it. Like no one ever has like I always say, like, do we ever think about the people when they saw the soldiers coming in 1898, like coming on and be like, wait, like esto? You know what I'm saying? It's like I think we don't do a good job like criticizing ourselves.
And how do we feel? At what time? That's what is crazy for me. At what time did we start to believe that this was right?
Yeah.
Like, when did we say, yes, they're killing Puerto Ricans? That's great. Like, it's common sense. No one wants to live like that.
So before we end, because I think it's really important, I mean, I always say, like, you can't talk about Puerto Rico now without Maria. Like, Maria it has literally changed the history. Like, we don't know what that history will be. So what are your thoughts about living, being an artist, being a Puerto Rican in a post-Maria world where you're seeing a lot of, there's definitely more interest in Puerto Rico. I'm sure for you, like, people are like, oh, you're from Puerto Rico, you're an artist. You know what I mean? It's like, I think I'm seeing a lot of people going, like, caring about it more. But I also think there's a lot of, like, misperceptions and myths. And So what do we do as Puerto Rico? Because you did mention that younger people are starting to be a little bit more aware of their history, and I've actually seen
Yes.
more interest in, in history in Puerto Rico and looking at the relationship more from the younger generation. I'm like my generation, the 40-something generation, like we messed it up already. Like you guys are next. You know what I mean? Like I think that I see more hope in your generation and the younger generation.
Yeah.
So what's your sense? I mean, you've been down there, you've talked to people. Like, what is a post-Maria world? What has it done to Puerto Rico?
Well, I think it's beyond the hurricane. I think it's something like we've always lived an eternal hurricane, and the hurricane just was a way of.
We're tweeting that out. We've always lived in eternal hurricane is a total quote. Like if you don't put that on a quote graphic on a news thing.
It's like, yeah, we have, but we don't realize it. And I think what Maria did was just shook ourselves in a way, literally, that made us realize that something has been going on and something is still happening. But what are we going to do about it?
Yeah.
It's not anymore. We cannot keep waiting for someone else. We have to do something ourselves. And I think that Maria made us do that because we were noticing that we were not receiving the help that we believed we were going to receive. And then automatically, like a natural human reaction, we started helping each other. And that was beautiful. The schools that were messed up, flooded, the parents were cleaning it, and the families, the communities were helping each other. I myself, with a group of people from San Juan, that San Juan was a little better than the rest of the country. We went to other places in the island and help with what we can, bring food and something, and it's just a natural way of helping each other.
That's what
We're
everyone's.
a small island.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that's what people aren't talking about. Is one of the things I talk to family, I talk to friends. It's like we're talking to each other again.
Yeah.
Tú sabes, mira, estoy hablando porque todo el mundo se mete detrás del teléfono, and then it's like people are starting to ask who their neighbors are, and I think the pace of Puerto Rico has changed. Like Maria's like kind of forced us to kind of look inwardly with us, and right? Would you say? Or?
But at the same time, it's like when you're too busy, like your life is full of a lot of things at the same time, and you're just tired, and then you just do what you have to do, but then you don't have time or don't notice that someone is taking advantage of you, and that's what's going on now in Puerto Rico. The only goal for Ricardo Rosselló, the governor of Puerto Rico, is just to make Puerto Rico a state, something that is not going to happen. But because of that, that is his only goal. Because of that, he's being so insensitive to the people that voted for him, and that is so ugly to see.
No, I have friends of mine like hardcore Rosellistas, like guys I went to school with. I'm talking like white San Juan. I'm guys that have been, PNP since they were 20, and they've called me up, and they're like, what, with the death count and the thing, and it's like, what is going on with this administration? And I think that's a big thing. And I also think the other thing people tend to forget, Trump bashing is very easy to say Puerto Rico, but people forget, what happened in the 90s with George's and Clinton. Like it's not like this was the first hurricane that we had problems with, and people seem to forget that there's sort of this bipartisan ignoring of Puerto Rico in a lot of ways, and it's very easy for Americans that are living here to just be like, oh, Trump, there's a bigger issue here, right? Or there's a colonial issue here.
What was a little humiliating for me is that Trump went to Puerto Rico and people received him like it's something that we do.
That's Guaynabo City, but they receive him. Yeah,
they receive him, and he humiliates us, and we just smile, and it's so.
Well, it happened last time. It's like when the story that Omarosa said that Trump might have said some slurs against Puerto Ricans, and then the Secretary of State Martin is tweeting out that we reject allegations of la gente no te defiende. That's the thing. It's like I think one of the biggest mistakes that Puerto Rican politicians make is that they don't defend their own sometimes, and they get lost in sort of their. It happened with the Populares this week. It happened with the. It's like the institutional world of Puerto Rican politics. I know I can talk about it with you forever, but I know we went from like a video to be like, let's talk about the institutional But I think there's a politiqueria that just is so seeped in colonialism that it's so much deeper and so much entrenched with us that we don't even know how to deal with it.
The crazy thing about it is that we as Puerto Ricans are so proud, and we're like, wow, we are Puerto Ricans, and then suddenly someone is talking, insulting you, and killing you. I'm not being dramatic, it's real.
Experimenting on you, removing it, like
exactly, and you just smile and then do nothing. Like, where is the Puerto Rican passion in that? And I think we have it. I think Rosario once felt obligated to react in some way. I saw an interview that I said, man, aren't you gonna say anything? The interviewer was North American. He was just saying horrible things.
I know which one it was.
And he reacted subtle, but he did something. Like, it's like, Jesus, come on, like, he doesn't have anything to do.
And not to say, like, he has had his moments, I agree with you. And I call him up all the time, so I don't want to, but you're right, like, there's a way to do it.
It's hostility, and that's what the song is about. It doesn't have to do with what politics mean now. It had to do with human actions that we need to work together. We learn how to hate. It's not something that we have in ourselves. We learn how to do it, and we have to find ways to not do it. Detain us, stop and think about what we can do. And I think it starts by trying to understand our differences and talking about it in a dialogue, and maybe we can find each other.
So one of my last questions, the song, I want to go back to the song, because tell me the first two lines, that lyric, the way you set up how you present hate, because I love, being like a Spanish language nerd that I am, like the way you present how you just, if you starve hate, like you can say it in Spanish too, but the way that you present it poetically just really captured me, because it's like, whoa, like you could starve hate. Like, so tell me a little bit about that imagery and how you started the song. Because it really captured.
Well, I was looking Twitter.
Twitter for inspiration.
Yeah.
Very smart. It's like that. You're very digitally savvy.
It was like that, but I didn't. We started creating the music with Ismael Cancel, and I didn't know what the song was going to be about. And then this day I was like looking Twitter and the news, that it was like a combination of all the hostility that transmits the social redes.
And the networks.
And then the comments of the people also with hostility, like, it's not something constructive, it's destructive. And then I started thinking that we become like a victim of one thing. And then I say, I started imagining hate as this big
that we
hungry
feed,
guy,
like we feed it, right?
That we feed it
this big hungry
from ourselves.
Dame ma, tú sabes.
Exactly, and we unconsciously, even in the small things, from the micro things to the macro, we feed it, and then suddenly he's taking advantage of us, and we're not making the world a better place, but we want it to be better. So what's going on? I think it has to do a lot with ourselves. It's just having a moment that we don't usually take, having a moment to stop and think about ourselves and see each other and analyze us a little bit more and talk to each other and maybe find ways.
Don't feed hate.
Exactly.
So we have a couple of questions from our Facebook Live audience, and then because I always do this. Thank you, Amanda Alcantara, our digital editor. We have people here. We have Luis Luna for Futuro Media, and you want to say who's here in the room with you? You want to say just so, we can't turn the camera, but we do have a live audience.
The director of the video, Cesar Berrios. Ismael Cancel, co-producer of the album, and also he works everything in the project. And Adrian Garcia from Sony Music, that he has worked a lot in the project.
So I like the fact that it was a good entourage. It's a live. So just a couple of questions before you go. Although the first one's about Promesa.
Oh, okay.
You're like, yeah. What do you think, like, Promesa, did it really, like, I guess the question is, bill of goods, se vendió, like, Obama got a little problem, like, Democrat, like, what, is it helping? I know it's such a
big,
but you have fans that want to know what your thoughts on Promesa.
Is that I think that they don't care. No one cares. We have to care for ourselves, and doesn't matter how good the intention might look. Maybe they're thinking about their own interests at the end. So I think maybe it's something that it's not helping us because the way they are managing it, it's not for the Puerto Ricans. They're just being straightforward and cold about it, the whole situation. I don't blame it as much because it's just a way of, I blame it in a psychological way, but it's just like a style. And this, give me my money. The thing that I don't like is the superiority that from
game to game.
Como que de donde hablan, como from the standing that they're talking, as if the United States doesn't have their own debt.
Right.
So that's what I don't like, as if you have worked everything so bad, you need someone to help you to administrate the money because we know so much about administration.
Well,
so,
and no one talks about the millions of dollars that all these
yeah,
consultants and contractors and lawyers are making.
Exactly.
And it's like,
and that's why who are you to blame us?
Right.
And that's what I don't like about it. Maybe because we have also had bad administration in our government.
Yeah.
Maybe in some way we might need someone being a U.S. territory and all. But they don't have the right for me to talk from that superiority place.
I'm with it. Like and no one. I don't know a lot of people that were like, "Ooh, Promesa, que belleza!" Like it's awesome.
Yeah.
Like it's not a lot of people who are like, "Listen, before we let you go, you need to let us know how can people find more about your music, audio, and what is this the start of something new, or are you gonna? What are you doing? What are you doing now that you come out with audio?
I'm working on my second album. It's still in process. This is the first song that I released and I let go. So I'm working with myself and all the anxiety and emotion. But I'm very happy. I'm very excited. I think it's another way of communicating my feelings, my own feelings. I'm very connected with them. I'm in a different moment than from my first album. I think the first album spoke about sensitivity and vulnerability as a strength.
Yeah.
And now I think it's more talking about that strength in a more direct way. So
you're maturing. You just continue
growing.
to grow.
Yeah.
Listen, I could talk to you for hours, but I know that you have to go do other things. But just the fact that you have maintained the tradition, the special tradition of Puerto Rican artists that really lives and breathes what it is to be Boricua. Like, to me, as a journalist, it drives me every day, right? I wake up every morning to be like, not only how do I help where I'm from?
Exactly.
So more of us have to continue to talk like this. And hablar fuera de Facebook Live también, ¿sabes? I could have a conversation with you for hours. Todo suerte con todo. We're so very happy that you were here to join us here at Futuro Media, Latino Rebels, and we're gonna share the video and listen to music and everything, and tag you on Twitter and everything. Abrazo, gracias, iLe. Thank you so much. Thank you. All right, we're out of here. Thanks.
Ciao.